that's considered the marketing savior for the sport.
So many people were also painting her out to be the problem. She could never do enough. She could never speak out enough.
Due to their lengthier stay in the league than the rookie phenom, several WNBA players feel entitled to larger paychecks and are outraged about Caitlin Clark's rich offer from a European team.
Game is physical. Caitlin is helping to grow the league. These women understand that, but she cannot be babied as a rookie. That's all I'm...
Since Caitlin Clark is the highest paid player in the world and will finally receive the respect she deserves in a league that appreciates her talent free from players hoping to see her fail, her departure overseas could be disastrous for the WNBA.
Reality. It wasn't what it is. The quality of basketball may have been up to snuff, and you had somebody as popular as Cheryl Swoops who had her own signature shoe, had to deal with Nike and all of this other stuff. But the bottom line is, very few people gave a damn.
Why would Caitlin Clark continue playing in a league where the news causes even her teammates to turn against her? Nalissa Smith and DJ Carrington were seen giggling at the widely shared eye poke incident, which brought attention to Clark's lack of support.
Ow! Oh, I'm sorry. You poked me in the eye. You did.
I did not poke you.
Did you do it on purpose?
I did not poke you in the eye.
Did you do it on purpose?
Nalissa Smith, a teammate of Caitlin Clark, was seen smiling when DJ Carrington imitated her, asking, "Did you do it on purpose?" Surprisingly, Smith didn't defend Clark, isolating her even among her own teammates during this widely shared ridicule.
Sitting there like, well, hold on, man. This woman is booed up with the girl that poked Caitlin Clark in the eye. They're making videos making fun of Caitlin Clark in the eye poke. What is the Indiana Fever doing?
Instead of supporting Caitlin, her team has posted highlights from Melissa Smith's season, with no indication that they will support Clark. Now that the opposition players obviously don't want Caitlin in the WNBA, and even her teammates are making fun of her, she has even more cause to leave. The WNBA is pleading for her back once they realize what they've lost.
Wonder if Caitlin, in every post-game press conference, she came out and talked about the kind of hateful comments that she was getting. If she came out and told everybody the reason why she has personal security that goes with her every single place, it's a lot. And so it's not just Caitlin Clark fans or Indiana Fever fans. It is not all going in one direction.
Fans of Caitlin Clark or the Indiana Fever are not all in one direction. Caitlin Clark's agreement to play for a European team involves more than just a simple transfer. Why is this move causing such heated feelings within the league when it's a clear indication of the opportunities and differences between some WNBA players and those drawing attention abroad? Despite years of supremacy, Caitlin, a novice to the professional basketball scene, has already drawn international offers that even well-established players like A'ja Wilson haven't received. Wilson and other elite WNBA players haven't seen the same lucrative deals. Longtime players who feel ignored by the league and the national team are irritated by the gap that Clark's ability to bring attention to.
It wasn't to the degree of Caitlin Clark being on that basketball court and people watching her, but nevertheless, rising tide lifts all boats.
For Wilson, A'ja, in addition to the fact that Caitlin signed a contract to play in Europe, the underlying message that this decision sends to the rest of the WNBA is what is causing the displeasure surrounding her relocation. A'ja has long held the view that winning the league MVP award should entail more than just winning a trophy. In her opinion, MVP status ought to entail the best opportunities in terms of contracts and recognition. However, she is currently witnessing Caitlin Clark, who hasn't played as long or achieved as much in the professional world, receiving offers that someone of AIA's caliber ought to be receiving.
A lot of people that laid the groundwork that deserve shine as well. Here's what we're going to do.
Are they playing now?
Here's what we're going to do.
Are they playing now?
We don't have Andrea.
Remember, you got
we don't have any of the women today. They'll come back on. We'll revisit this conversation. Glad.
When Caitlin was still playing in college, her games were packed with fans eager to watch her play. But A'ja, even though she was the MVP, wasn't attracting the same crowds at the WNBA level there. This highlights the harsh reality that skill and accomplishment don't always equal financial reward, which makes A'ja's frustration even more intense.
The reason 12 million people are watching ESPN for a game, if that game was on CBS, they probably would have had 25, 30 million people watching.
DJ Carrington's hatred for Caitlin Clark is well known. The two players had a past together, and Carrington's bitterness reached a peak during the notorious eye poke incident, in which Caitlyn suffered a black eye rather than expressing regret for her behavior. Carrington decided to make fun of Caitlyn, which increased their level of hostility. This public act of contempt wasn't an isolated occurrence. Rather, it was a sign of a longer-standing animosity that Carrington had for Caitlyn.
No one would even know her name, Nylisa Smith, if she played on any of the other 11 teams. She was the second overall pick 2 or 3 years ago in the WNBA draft. Decent player, but no one would know. She played with Caitlin Clark. People know her name. She has no gratitude. She has no respect. She can't tell her girlfriend, hey, we ain't doing.
Carrington's resentment probably originates from the fact that Caitlyn has taken on a leadership role in women's basketball that she hasn't been able to, despite the fact that Carrington is a gifted player in her own right. This has led to a sense of resentment that was only made worse by the eye poke incident for Carrington. It seems like a personal blow that Caitlyn's quick ascent to fame is being disregarded in favor of someone who hasn't put in as much effort.
Producing the most watched WNBA games in over 2 decades. What does that tell you? That tells you that before Caitlin Clark came along, it wasn't nearly as popular. It doesn't mean it wasn't growing in popularity over the last 2 to 3 years. But 3 years ago, WNBA was an afterthought.
What's most concerning about Carrington's actions is that, rather than offering an apology for the harm, she seems to enjoy Caitlyn's troubles. Carrington made fun of it by making fun of Caitlyn in a way that seemed to imply that she liked watching her suffer. This type of behavior transcends professional rivalry and becomes personal. Carrington has been disrespectful and resentful of Caitlyn, and Caitlyn has had to cope with this throughout her WNBA career. Following the eye poke incident, Nylisa Thomas has sided with DJ Carrington in their mutual animosity towards Caitlin Clark. Nylisa's complete lack of compassion for her fellow athlete was demonstrated when she was spotted giggling with her lover about Caitlyn's injury. The fact that Nylisa and Carrington take amusement in Caitlyn's injury indicates a more serious problem in the league. This type of behavior is appalling, especially coming from someone who ought to be a professional athlete.
Thing above board. It doesn't matter what Nylisa Smith does. She can go out and mock our meal ticket, the best player in the league, the person that's making us all.
Caitlyn is extremely concerned about this degree of hostility because she believes that the WNBA should be a place where players encourage one another and collaborate to improve the league, but instead she is dealing with open hostility from her peers, which fosters a toxic environment where players actively seek to undermine one another in addition to competing against one another. Caitlyn's injuries on the court wasn't merely an accident. It came to represent the animosity she encounters from players such as Carrington and Melissa.
Okay. Well before this year. This is not a new thing. Sure. This is, and in that way, I do think Caitlyn's being used as a pawn. Caitlyn didn't bring citizens to the WNBA. This has been.
In professional sports, a team is meant to represent a safe and supportive environment where players are united in a common goal, winning games and achieving success together. It's about trust, collaboration, and solidarity, especially during challenging moments. However, Caitlin Clark's reality with the Indiana Fever has been anything but supportive. Rather than coming together to support her, who was obviously the victim of a physical injury, the Indiana Fever seemed indifferent, failing to publicly defend her or even acknowledge the situation in a meaningful way for.
All of those who think it's funny, could you imagine if it was, the roles were reversed? If Caitlin Clark, 2 white girls, made a video mocking it, what the reaction would be? I mean, let's just be honest. I don't want to go, what about Favre? But what about Favre?
This must have seemed like a betrayal to Caitlyn because not only were her efforts ignored, but her own squad also appeared more focused on praising others' accomplishments than on safeguarding one of its best players. This circumstance calls into question the team's internal dynamics because it suggests a larger problem if a player like Caitlyn, who has contributed significantly to the WNBA, isn't receiving support from her teammates and coaching staff. The lack of support Caitlyn experienced isn't just about one incident, it speaks to a larger problem within the team culture. For any athlete, especially one of Caitlyn's caliber, feeling alone or unprotected by your own team can be emotionally taxing. In this case, Caitlyn's teammates and staff have chosen to remain silent or focus on other players, sending a clear message that her personal well-being and contributions to the team don't carry as much weight as they should.
Say she's lucky this UConn team isn't healthy. And that's a true statement.
That's not. That's wrong, Molly.
Monica.
That's wrong, Molly. Molly,
like
it's
five
excuses.
top
It's
players,
excuses,
am I right?
Molly. It's
Major
excuses.
injury.
You would not be saying that if it wasn't UConn.
Major stars not playing.
Listen,
You gotta go.
It's her against Caitlin Clark.
Stephen A.
Ain't no excuses.
Stephen
You
A.
got there. No, no, want to hear that now.
Stephen A.
Let me tell you, if
Paige
George Brown gets
Beckers-
back in the mix, I'm going to be insufferable. I'm just telling you that now.
What?
If Paige Beckers didn't basically miss 2 seasons, I don't know if we'd be talking about Caitlin Clark the way we are now.
It can cause players to lose confidence and feel alienated, which affects their performance and general contentment in the league. It also makes Caitlin wonder if the WNBA and the Indiana Fever in particular are the right places for her to pursue her career. After all, why would she stick around when her own team doesn't seem to have her back? Caitlin's decision to think about playing in Europe is further complicated by this incident. She might find herself in a more encouraging and courteous team atmosphere in addition to perhaps making more money and encountering less animosity from other players. The Indiana Fever's lack of support for Caitlin may be the last straw she needs to decide to transfer abroad, because European leagues are renowned for providing their best players with the tools and encouragement they require to succeed.
A lot of this noise came by people that were sitting on this network. They tried to minimize her, saying, well, you giving her all this credit. What about the women that came before her? What the women came before her, what they did cannot be taken away. That ain't got nothing to do with Caitlin Clark.
The WNBA has never been able to compete with other major sports leagues, so losing someone who could attract new fans like Caitlin may be terrible. The worry is that Caitlin's move to Europe might set a precedent. If one of the league's biggest stars decides to leave for better opportunities overseas, what's stopping other elite players from following suit? The WNBA might end up with fewer star players to draw in fans if its best players move abroad. This isn't just about Caitlin. Her exit might be the tipping point that sends the WNBA into a downward spiral, reversing years of hard work and advancement.
They got eliminated from the playoffs, the attendance dropped, the ratings dropped. If the WNBA is more, it is, and I get it. Why aren't people watching?
This concerns the WNBA's overall future. Reese Angel, although DJ Carrington and Asia Wilson are aware that the WNBA cannot afford to lose its top players, Caitlin's exit suggests that the league isn't doing enough to keep them. Caitlin Clark's choice to join a European team may have long-term effects on the WNBA, which has worked for years to grow its fan base, boost attendance, and become a significant force in the professional sports industry. Caitlin was one of the main players behind that expansion.
And that have been calling for the equality, and now that there is the chance for them to start getting paid more because the exposure's up. Because it's her, you have people like, what's her name, Jamelia Hill or what? I can't stand her. Yeah. You got these women who are coming on here and they're saying it's because...
When Caitlin stopped playing during the playoffs, the impact on viewership was immediate. Fans who had tuned in to watch her abruptly lost interest, and the numbers showed that this presents a serious problem for the WNBA. The league has worked tirelessly to increase its visibility and grow its fan base, but Caitlin's departure puts all of that progress at risk. Without one of its biggest stars, the WNBA could see a significant drop in viewership, which would hurt the league's bottom line as WEL.
We don't want to have to deal with what everybody else has to deal with over Twitter. We're special. We're tall women who occasionally make layups. That makes us special, and we deserve a special level of treatment.
Although Caitlin has done more to raise the league's profile than almost anyone else, the WNBA struggled to draw fans and maintain viewership numbers prior to Caitlin's rise to fame. However, with Caitlin in the spotlight, the league has seen record-breaking attendance and increased media coverage. But instead of celebrating Caitlin's success and the positive impact she's had on the league, many players seem intent on tearing her down. This resentment is largely fueled by jealousy. Players who believe they aren't receiving the same opportunities have turned their attention to Caitlin because of her ability to attract fans and earn big contracts. Given what Caitlin Clark has experienced in the WNBA, the toxic climate has caused her to wonder if the league is the proper place for her analysts. Will she join the WNBA and continue doing what she is doing now? Caitlin Clark has every reason to think about relocating to Europe, where she would receive a higher salary, encounter less animosity, and be able to carry on establishing her reputation free from the WNBA's pervasive criticism. With Europe, Caitlin can start over, concentrate on her craft, and continue to draw in new admirers free from the toxicity and drama she's currently dealing with. the WNBA may suffer greatly from Caitlyn's relocation to Europe. Without her, the league runs the risk of losing its biggest star and its expanding fan base. Since Caitlyn has raised awareness of the WNBA more than nearly anybody else, her exit could result in a sharp decline in viewership. If you liked it, leaving Caitlyn could throw the WNBA into a downward spiral as it already struggles to compete with other major sports leagues. Additionally, subscribe to see more videos immediately.
Clark come into the WNBA and do what she's doing right now. Immediately, absolutely.
Although Caitlyn has done more to raise the league's profile than almost anyone else, the WNBA struggled to draw fans and maintain viewership numbers prior to Caitlyn's rise to fame. However, with Caitlyn in the spotlight, the league has seen record-breaking attendance and increased media coverage. But instead of celebrating Caitlyn's success and the positive impact she's had on the league, many players seem intent on tearing her down. This resentment is largely fueled by jealousy. Players who believe they aren't receiving the same opportunities have turned their attention to Caitlyn because of her ability to attract fans and earn big contracts. Given what Caitlyn Clark has experienced in the WNBA, the toxic climate has caused her to wonder if the league is the proper place for her analysts. Will she join the WNBA and continue doing what she is doing now? Caitlyn Clark has every reason to think about relocating to Europe, where she would receive a higher salary, encounter less animosity, and be able to carry on establishing her reputation free from the WNBA's pervasive criticism. With Europe, Caitlyn can start over, concentrate on her craft, and continue to draw in new admirers free from the toxicity and drama she's currently dealing with. The WNBA may suffer greatly from Caitlyn's relocation to Europe. Without her, the league runs the risk of losing its biggest star and its expanding fan base. Since Caitlyn has raised awareness of the WNBA more than nearly anybody else, her exit could result in a sharp decline in viewership. If you liked it, leaving Caitlyn could throw the WNBA into a downward spiral as it already struggles to compete with other major sports leagues. Additionally, subscribe to see more videos immediately.